This was my experience. Hi friends and welcome back to my channel. I just finished rereading all of the Hunger Games books in preparation for Sunrise on the Reaping. Here's my thoughts. As you probably know, Suzanne Collins released a new book in the Hunger Games universe this year. Sometime in March, Sunrise on the Reaping, this is the actual cover. I'm currently reading it, so that's why. Sunrise on the Reaping was released sometime in March, and this is the story of Haymitch's Hunger Games. The 50th Hunger Games, the quadriquel. It's another prequel to Katniss's story. And I thought that for once I would be prepared for the release of a new book in a series and actually reread the previous books. So I had the idea that I would reread the Hunger Games trilogy and also the first prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, before the release of Sunrise on the Reaping. That didn't happen at first. I think I started this reread sometime in March or April, and I only finished it yesterday, so like the start of August. The reread took me a bit longer than anticipated, but I still feel like I had such a good experience doing this. I have so many new insights, opinions regarding annotating, because I annotated it a bunch. I will show you more of it. And basically I just want to chat about my insights, my experience doing this, and if it was worth doing this in preparation for Sunrise on the Reaping. This video will contain spoilers regarding these books, not for Sunrise on the Reaping, but for all of the other books in the Hunger Games series, so be aware of that if you for some reason don't know the storyline of the Hunger Games or the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And as mentioned, as of when I'm filming this, I'm only like a third into this book. I'm hoping that I can finish it within the next couple of days actually, because I'm really into it. I'm tabbing it as well. I might not have that much to say about this one yet, but I still wanted to chat about my preparations and all the hard work I put into that. In this video we're going to talk about my thoughts about the books, rereading them for the first time ever. I had never reread any of these books, meaning that the first and only time I read Hunger Games was approximately 15 years ago. I will also, for the fun of it, rank the books in the order of which I prefer, just cause I can. And I will also be talking a lot about my annotation process doing this, things I learned, things I realized, the themes I decided to track, if I later on realized that I should have tracked something else, all of that. Let's just start by talking a bit about the books and their plots and all of that. I actually owned none of these books before this. Previously, when I read The Hunger Games, I had the first book in Swedish, the second book I borrowed from a friend, and the third book I read in English. And I believe the two editions I do have are at my parents' place, tucked away in some sort of box or something. So I decided to look for the books secondhand. And I found them on Vinted, all three of them, and I paid approximately $9. So that was a steal. Yes, they were already like cracked on the spine and a bit like tattered up. I didn't care about that because I knew that I was gonna annotate them and write in them. Yes, I have written in them, I have highlighted them. I'm not being shy in this annotation process. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes I did own before, but spoiler, I did not enjoy the book the first time around. So I had actually unhauled my copy of it like, I don't know, 2 years ago or something. But being in this universe made me realize that, oh, maybe I should read this book as well in preparation for Sunrise on the Reaping. So I actually purchased this one new. I tried to look for it secondhand, didn't really find a good copy of it, so this one I purchased new. I'm going to assume that you're already familiar with the story and the plot and the characters, so I won't really go that much in depth about that and explain it all to you, just so that you're aware. If you just talk about the reading experience, how I enjoyed the books, what I thought of them, rereading them again, let's do it in order. First book, obviously, The Hunger Games, and this was an amazing read. It's so good. I forgot how good it is. Like, it makes sense, but it truly is an incredible book. I gave this 5 stars. For me, I think the concept is so incredible and scary. I found the pacing of the book to be great and the characterization as well. I just had a good time with it while also feeling quite emotional and affected by the topics and themes of this one. And we're gonna talk more about the themes I decided to track in the annotation portion of this video. I think this is incredible, a very strong first book in any series really. It does such great world building actually. I think the world is the most impressive thing with Suzanne Collins' Hunger Games series. It's so vivid, it's so thorough, it's so well explained, like we're introduced to this world and the rules of this world and the Hunger Games and all the districts and the capital so well. Yeah, amazing book. Next up was Catching Fire. This one is so different in comparison to Hunger Games because the world becomes so much more vast in this one. This one gets so much more political, it's so much more strategic. Like this one is purely about survival, our focus is Katniss, all of that. This one, completely different focus. Perhaps not for Katniss. Katniss is a very unreliable narrator in this one. She has no clue what's going on behind the scenes, and it's so frustrating to read her point of view. These books are told in first person, which is fine, I do not mind that. I'm sorry that I'm turning red. It's something with the camera and the blue. Doesn't work. It's so annoying though, I don't really understand why it does that. Maybe I should try and change some settings. Sorry if there's a sudden change to the lighting of this video. I tried to adjust my settings so I won't turn red when I hold this book up. Seems like it's working. Okay, interesting. Sorry about that. Where was I? Yeah, Katniss is just such an unreliable narrator and she doesn't really realize that. Of course she doesn't realize that, but I noticed a major difference in, like, now I'm turning red again. Okay, let's ignore that. Honestly, there's such a difference in Katniss as a character between these books, which is a bit inconsistent, I must say, because my experience reading Hunger Games is that Katniss is so smart. There's one point in this, and I will get to it, where she makes a mistake. But otherwise, throughout the entirety of the book, she never makes a mistake. She's always one step ahead, she understands and is very critical of the capital's acting and all, like the game makers and peacekeepers and all of that. She's extremely critical, she's extremely careful, except at one point, and that shows. But in this book, when everyone else is scheming around her, using her, and are making plans without her knowing, she is so freaking oblivious to that. And she's too smart for that. She's too smart to be that. We know that. We know that she's smart in this book. Why would she be so honed in on her like one goal and completely ignore all of the signs that something else, something bigger is going on? That doesn't really make any sense to me. It really doesn't. Her one goal in this book is to protect Peeta, and that's her main focus. She never even questions really why all the other tributes are trying to keep Peeta safe as well. Pluchard, something like that. He's giving so many signs on what team he's in. He's like hinting at Katniss with the Mockingjay symbol and all of that. And she doesn't notice any of that. Or she notices it and then doesn't think about that anymore. It's so frustrating. But as mentioned, a much more grand world. The games are actually just in the final part of the book. Each book is divided into 3 parts. And I feel like everything before that is so well executed as well, like the build up to the quarter quell, the winner's tour that they're doing at first, and then the reaping and the preparations and getting to know all of the districts and things. It's just a much more grand world, and I feel like this brings a lot more nuance to the story. This one is quite straightforward in its plot. It's about survival, it's about Katniss and Peeta. This one is about the districts. This one is about the people, about them versus us in a different way. Also 5-star for me. The final book in the original Hunger Games trilogy is Mockingjay. This one is, as we hopefully know now, about the revolution and the revolt against the capital. There's no games in this book anymore. They are living in the rebellion. District 12 doesn't exist anymore. The ones who survived are hanging out with District 13. This one is, I'm gonna say already, my least favorite in the series. You would expect the final book to have the most impact, and it does have the most impact, that's wrong of me to say. But you would expect it to be the most epic and perhaps the favorite, I guess. But for me, I feel like this has a lot of pacing issues. and it's quite fan servicey in a way that the first two books weren't. This book takes place a lot in like District 13, and they are training and things like that, and then they are breaking into the capital and stuff. But there's so much, like, the pacing is really off. There are like scenes taking place in certain districts that I know are not in the movie. Not that I'm saying that the movie should be the blueprint for anything, but like I feel like they took out those scenes for a reason, because they don't really contribute that much to the story. I feel like there's a lot of training montages, a lot of discussions about things, and I just feel like this is a bit off because of that. And when I say that it's fan servicey, I mean in the way that they are playing the love triangle between Katniss, Peeta and Gale. There's really not that much focus on like the love triangle in these books. It's mentioned, we know it's there, we know that there is tension between all of the characters. But in this one, compared to the other two, Katniss is kissing the boys left, right, all over the place. They are discussing the matter very openly with each other. And it just feels like they're playing a bit more into what the fans want with that. The fans want the love triangle to be acknowledged, for Katniss to make a choice, for the boys to fight for her, all of that. So, because of that. Something I did enjoy with this one though is to make comparisons between District 13 and President Coin to the Capitol and President Snow. Going into these books already knowing the plot, what's gonna end, who the bad guys are, things like that, it makes it very interesting to look into more of the foreshadowing. I definitely would say that there's many more similarities between President Coin, President Snow, District 13, the Capitol, than there are not, which is interesting. And this is also one thing that Katniss, she clocks it so early. As I'm telling you, she's smart, she's a clever girl. She clocks that her gut tells her that something's wrong with how District 13 are doing things and their motivations, and how it's very like indoctrinated and like everyone's gonna look alike and things like that. She clocks that. How come she doesn't clock the big scheme in this one? Honestly. Frustrating, right? So because of those issues I had with pacing and stuff mainly, this one is only a 4-star compared to the other two. And then we have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the first prequel about the 10th Hunger Games, where President Snow, or not then, but later on President Snow, back then he was just a young man, where he becomes a mentor to the District 12 girl who goes on to win the entire thing. I started to read this back when it was first released, which was in 2020. It then took me 3 years to finish the book. I could only motivate myself to finish it because I wanted to have it read before I went and saw the movie. I really enjoyed the movie, by the way. I struggled through this one. There was just something with the pacing that was off. I started to get bored, and I just didn't really care for the characters as much as I did with the original trilogy. So I struggled a lot the first time I read this. So I was very on the fence whether I would reread it or not this time around. I initially wouldn't, but as I was getting more into this universe, I realized that, yeah, I should read it. I should read it because these events takes place before Sunrise on the Reaping, so I'm certain that there was gonna be hints or like crossovers and stuff. So I did decide to reread it, and I am very glad that I did. This time around, I was a lot more into it. I have tabbed it a bunch. As with the other books, it's divided into 3 parts. I really like the first part actually, because I like getting to know what the world looked like back then, how the capital was, how Snow was when he was young and all of that, and like the sort of the start and the beginning of the games. I really enjoyed that part. But then the second and third part are about the games and also like the aftermath of the games and everything that happened later on. And those are just simply not as good. The first part is really great. The part 2 and part 3, I think it's different to read the games when the character whose point of view you're reading it from is not in the games. So like being an observer of the games, it's not as fun. Not that the games are fun, but you get what I mean. It's exciting, it's thrilling, all of that. It's not really the same reading it from the perspective of an observer. And on top of that, I just feel like the pacing, it just dives down. It's not good. The pacing in part 2 and part 3 isn't good, and I feel like the writing gets worse as well, which is sad to say. Some scenes are super long and are so well described without having any need to be that, and then we have scenes where there's like a main thing happening and that's just like mentioned in one sentence, and then on the next page they discuss it like it was this whole thing, and I need to go back because like, did I miss that? Did I miss that sentence where that happened? Story structure, scene structure, and pacing, it pivots quite a lot following part 1. Obviously, Snow isn't the most likable character to follow either, or to read from his perspective. I don't mind that, and I had a better time with it this time around than I had the first time around. But I mainly think that I enjoyed this book so much more this time around because I was already immersed in the Hunger Games universe, because I had read 3 books before that, and also because I was annotating it and it forced me to pay more attention and just think more, which is good. Might also be that I enjoyed the movie and because of that I enjoy this book more. I don't know, might be some bias related to that. So this time around I actually upped my rating of the book. The first time I gave it 2.5 stars, this time I gave it 3.5 stars, rounding it down to 3 on Goodreads. It's not as good as the other books in my opinion, and it has a bunch of structural issues. But it's really interesting to see basically the start and the development of the games and all of the philosophical discussions surrounding that. Like Snow discussing with one of his professors regarding chaos, control, the reasoning for the games. That is super interesting. And I also think the epilogue of the book is really, really good. The epilogue is really strong and leaves you wanting more. If I were to rank the books, on number 4 we would have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Number 3 would be Mockingjay. And then, who's gonna take the cake? I think, and once again I might be skewed because of the movies, but I think number 2 goes to The Hunger Games and number 1 goes to Catching Fire. Yes, because I do like the political intrigue, I do enjoy the introduction of all of the other characters and what they bring, and that we're learning more about the districts and all of that. So even though I have issues with Katniss, everything else is grand. This is my ranking of the Hunger Games books so far. It's gonna be interesting to see where Sunrise on the Reaping ends up. Now it's time to talk about the annotation process a bit, and it differed between the books. We're going to go a bit more in depth regarding how I annotated, what I annotated, and all of that. I just want to start by prefacing and saying that it's actually very rare that I annotate books this hard. I usually do tab them, sometimes I highlight them, but I don't tab them to the extreme either. I usually just go for like a couple of tabs to mark down scenes or moments I've enjoyed, quotes I enjoyed, or significant moments, or world building things. Like I don't really do that much if I'm just reading something leisurely. So it's quite rare that I go this hard in with like multiple colors and themes and all of that. It's also rare that I write in the books. I do that sometimes and I don't mind that. I don't mind having a well-read book, so I have no issues writing in my books. But I'm just saying that it's not something I typically do on the go. I also want to say that I believe that annotation can sometimes improve your experience of reading a book, but it can also have the opposite effect sometimes. So it's really dependent on what type of book you're reading, why you're reading a book, what sort of experience you want, and just your preference overall. It's all about balance and finding something that works for you. Also, it did require a bit of preparation for me actually to get into the annotation stuff. I didn't match the tabs, I didn't really care for it. I have so many of these colorful tabs, right? So I really couldn't be arsed to purchase new tabs when I have so many already. So I was like, okay, fine, it's gonna be a colorful book. I don't mind that. I then used a few pens, basically 3 highlighting colors and 2 regular pens. And then I had to find themes I wanted to track. So like the actual annotation key and stuff. And I searched for it on TikTok, on YouTube, I Googled it. I was looking for inspiration of other people sharing their annotation keys for the series in order to try and find themes I thought would work well. So for the first book, Hunger Games, these are the things I decided to track for the first book, Hunger Games. So we have propaganda, authoritarian control, shit's too real, foreshadowing / world building, other characters, Katniss and light. The reason I have foreshadowing / world building is because a lot of the times actually I realized when reading this book, if something is being revealed about how the world works, that's most likely a foreshadow for an upcoming event or something crucial. So that's why those are sort of the same. And I also used those same orange tabs, I don't know if you can see, I used those same orange tabs to mark like important or big moments up here as well. So here's like things throughout the book, but then we have like the big moments. So for example, when Prim's name is being called at the reaping, when she pierces the pig at like the training thing, when Peeta reveals that he's in love with Katniss, the start of the Hunger Games, her first kill, Peeta's and Katniss' first kiss, the move with the berries. So I just thought it was fun. Like those are scenes that are so referenced both in regards to the movies and to the books that I thought it would just be good to have like a shortcut to them. Shit's Too Real is the one honestly, I didn't use it that much because a lot of the things going on in these books are too real, but I guess many of those moments just ended up as propaganda or authoritarian control. Other characters, it was mainly for me to remember and have access to other characters so that when I get into Haymitch's book, I will remember those characters or I will be able to look them up quickly and see if they were mentioned in previous books or not. And then Katniss, just solid Katniss moment, and of course she got the color green because that's her favorite color. I'm not gonna flip through a lot of this, but like sometimes I would do things like that. This was a page I did, a lot of like underlining. I like to use the red for making circles. Here I basically wrote an essay about some opinions I had, okay? I mentioned to you how I think that Katniss is so smart throughout the first book. And this is the one moment where basically the Capitol fucks up, but it's also Katniss slacking for not realizing how poorly the Capitol is fucking up in that moment. And it's when they reveal that there will be 2 winners of the Hunger Games, okay? So I wrote, Katniss has been so smart throughout the games. She knows the history and the statistics of the games so well. How can she not see the way they are manipulating her right now? I'm getting annoyed. Yes, this does drive the plot, as this urges her to find Peeta, otherwise she probably wouldn't, but still, it's a bit uncharacteristically stupid. In one way, this is also the moment when the Capitol and the game makers fuck up. This moment gives Katniss and also the audience hope. This is the moment that will actually force them to announce 2 winners in order to save face. They're really fucking up. So for Katniss, who has just been playing the games with like some rebellious tendencies, but this is what will actually ignite the true rebellion. What a screw up. And I stand by that. If they had never done that, they would have had 1 winner in the games and things would have been fine. The rebellion would have come, but at a later state, I think, or like many years after Katniss even. Because they give the audience and Katniss hope regarding having the 2 lovers win the games together. That's sort of what messes with everything. So I do get why Cinna was by the end of the book. Next up, for Catching Fire, this was the annotation key, quite similar to the first one. This time green is Katniss / unreliable narrator, and it's every time she misses a hint from either Pluchard or any of the other tributes. But then everything else is the same, and here we have the big moments as well. So moments such as like the first hints of a rebellion, and they reveal that they are sending back the winners into the arena. Then we also have an entire section regarding Haymitch's Hunger Games. This yellow tab is for that actually. So there's like 3 or 4 pages, 5 pages about Haymitch's Hunger Games. So which made me realize we do actually know the plot of Sunrise on the Reaping. I just didn't realize that. No major essays in this one at least. But same thing there. A lot of highlighting, underlining. For the final book, Mockingjay, let's have a look. This was the annotation key this time around. Katniss, unreliable narrator. I had to purchase new tabs for this actually, so I also got a red one. So that is the one I used for the big moments this time around. So big moments in this one were such as like the hanging tree song, when Peeta attacked Katniss, and like a bunch of things when they are trying to break into the Capitol, and when she shoots coin. Good moments. Did I have any major things regarding this one? I don't think so. Once again, it was mainly the comparisons between the Capitol and District 13. So, Battle of Songbirds and Snakes. These are the parts I decided to annotate or track. So we have propaganda, once again. But then we have the games, which is the green one, or like shaping the future. So there's a lot of things that happens in this book, because it's the 10th Hunger Games. This sort of shapes the Hunger Games we come to know in Katniss's version. So like the betting, I think it being like broadcasted, having mentors, a lot of things like that is just like new for this sort of games. Having the scoreboard or showing who's left and who died in the games, things like that. How a tribute's win contributes to the entire district in order to get the districts more engaged with the games. So that's really, really interesting. We have red for snow, and then we have foreshadowing, world building, once again, like other characters, control, so sort of like authoritarian control, and then big/OMG moment, because why not? I'm actually quite pleased with the themes I decided to track. Once again, I didn't really use the sheets to real one, so that could have been used for other things. And I think that if I were to add something to track, I would definitely add the mention of hunger or food, especially in this first book. It's called The Hunger Games after all. But there's really a theme of like being hungry, hunger, and once they get to the capital and they get all of this food and like all of that. So it would have been interesting to track that just as a theme. And similarly to that, in the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes, I think it would have been interesting to track poverty. Because I feel like poverty and the fact that the Snows are now poor is really a big part of why Snow is the way he is. So I actually started to use the red tab a bit for that as well. That every time they discussed how poor the Snows were, and basically Coriolanus' distaste for poverty or something like that, every time that was mentioned, I tracked that with a red tab, because I feel like it's a big reason for why he is the way he is, and why he acts the way he does, and why he looks down on the districts and on people, and also he looks down at those who are poor, and also he looks down at those who are rich. Which is really weird, but it's a really like strong characteristic with him. That's the main thing I could think of that I would have wanted to track more, I guess. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, I did mention a bit like all the foreshadowing, and that it's quite fun to read the books once you know the plot of it. And I feel like there's a lot of like Easter eggs in the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes, if you have read the original trilogy, and especially there were some parts here in the end that I just wanted to shout out. When Lucy Gray and Snow are in the woods at various occasions. Because Katniss has her name from this plant. I feel like it's like a turnip or potato or something like that. Potato root, I don't quite remember. But that's sort of what Katniss means and what her name is. And they mention that sort of root, whatever, potato, in the book. And so it says, hey, you found some Katniss, good work. But when they examine the roots to see if they can cook them or not, they say, a little too early. As if Katniss is not here yet, it's too early for Katniss. She's coming in like 65 years. Here's another one. I think I'll go dig up some Katniss since we got the fire going anyway. Get it? Katniss, fire. Is it a metaphor for Katniss and fire? Catching fire? The girl who was on fire? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into things, but I thought that was fun. I think that's a lot of what I had to say regarding the plot, regarding my thoughts, rereading these books, and my annotation process. If you have more questions regarding my annotation process, or if perhaps, I don't know, I've seen that people make videos just like filming each page. I could do that. If that would be interesting, let me know. If it's like a particular book you would like to see that for or something. Just like a flip through of the book with all of the annotations. I don't know, maybe. I feel like they look really good together. Like, look at them. I think I'm so pleased with how it turned out. But now for the big question. Was it worth going through this work. I know for some people it's not work at all, and for me it really wasn't either. I mostly enjoyed it, but once again, I rarely annotate things this deeply, and I rarely reread things, so for me it was sort of an effort at least. But was it worth the effort in preparation for Sunrise on Reaping? I have to say yes, because I started to read this one yesterday, and I swear 6 pages in and there were already mentions of characters from the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes, and there were already like foreshadowings and hints to the previous Hunger Games books as well, and I was just so damn pleased with myself that I decided to do this reread, that I included the first prequel as well, because I feel like it's really paying off now. In a way, it feels very fan servicey to read this book right now, because I feel like they have just thrown in every character from all of the other books, and they are like name-dropping characters and name-dropping moments and things. But it's also fun because of that. I feel like it added an extra layer of fun because it feels so fan servicey right now. So I am so pleased that I'm doing this. I am tabbing it as well. I'm not writing in it, but I am tabbing it. I'm using 3 tabs. I'm using this light purple for basically Haymitch as a character and his like the development of him as a character. Like, we know how he ends up, but to see where he started out and how he becomes the one he is in Katniss's books. We have the darker purple for just like general moments throughout the book, I feel like. So like moments I enjoy, quotes I enjoy, things like that. And then we have this blue one that I'm already running out of, which is crossovers from the other books. So whenever another character is mentioned, whenever another moment is mentioned from the books, very solid. This was my experience. This was my experience of rereading all of the Hunger Games books in preparation for Sunrise on Reaping. I hope this video makes sense, even though it might be a bit all over the place. I had such a good time with this, and I recommend everyone to do this, and I would love to do this for other series I really enjoyed as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far in the video, please leave a 10 emoji in the comments to reference annotation. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!